You don't talk much, but your mind never shuts up. You replay conversations. You overanalyze small things. You wonder if you said something wrong, even hours later. And sometimes, you don't even say anything at all. But somehow, you still feel like you messed up. It's exhausting. What if I told you? This didn't start now. It started when you were the quiet child. You were the one who didn't cause trouble, the one adults didn't have to worry about. You stayed in your corner. You observed. You listened. People probably liked that about you. She's so well behaved. He's so mature for his age. But what they didn't see was everything happening inside you. Because being quiet wasn't always your personality. Sometimes, it was your survival. Maybe you learned early that speaking up didn't go well, and you said something and got ignored, or corrected too quickly, or misunderstood, or shut down before you could explain yourself. So you adjusted. You told yourself, next time, I'll just stay quiet. And that next time slowly became every time. Pause for a second. Think about this honestly. When was the first time you felt like your voice didn't matter? Not the big obvious moment, the small one, the one nobody else noticed. But you still remember. When you're a child, you don't think, maybe this environment isn't safe for me. You think, maybe I'm the problem. So you adapt. You become more careful, more observant, more aware of how people react. You start reading faces, tones, silences. You become hyper-aware, and this is where everything changes. Because when you stop expressing things outwardly, your mind turns inward. Everything you wanted to say, everything you held back, it doesn't disappear. It stays, and your brain tries to process it. Again, and again, and again. That's the beginning of overthinking. It's not random. It's not because you're weak. It's because your mind got used to doing all the talking, silently. You start asking yourself questions like, did I say the wrong thing? Do they like me? Should I have responded differently? And because you don't say it out loud, you don't get answers. So your brain keeps searching. That's why overthinking feels endless. Because it is. There's no closure, no one to say, no, you're fine. So your mind fills in the gaps. And most of the time, it fills them with doubt. Now here's something most people don't realize. Overthinking isn't just thinking too much. It's trying to protect you from being judged, from being misunderstood, from feeling small again. Because deep down, you remember that feeling, even if you can't name when it started. You walk into a room now, and you're already analyzing everything. Who's here? What's the vibe? Where do I fit? You rehearse what to say before saying it. You edit yourself mid-sentence. And sometimes, you stay quiet again. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you have too much. And later, that's when it gets loud. You replay everything. That look, that pause, that one sentence. You think, why did I say that? Or, why didn't I say anything? Pause again. Be real with yourself. How many conversations have you had in your head that never happened in real life? This is what growing up as the silent child does. You don't stop communicating. You just move the conversation inside. But here's the part that hurts. People think you're calm. They think you're easygoing, quiet, reserved. But they don't see the noise. They don't see how much effort it takes just to exist around others. And after a while, you start believing this is just who you are. I'm just an overthinker. I've always been like this. But that's not completely true. You weren't born like this. You learned it. You learned to scan for reactions, to predict outcomes, to avoid saying the wrong thing. Because at some point, being yourself didn't feel safe enough. And here's the twist most people miss. And the same thing that made you struggle is also what made you deeply aware. You notice details others miss. You understand emotions without words. You can feel when something is off, instantly. You became emotionally intelligent because you had to be. But now, that same ability is turned inward. Instead of just understanding others, you're analyzing yourself constantly. So the goal isn't to stop overthinking, because that part of you was built for a reason. The goal is to stop trapping everything inside. You were never meant to carry every thought alone. Not every feeling needs to be perfect before you express it. Not every sentence needs to be rehearsed. Start small. Say what you're thinking, even if it's not perfect. Ask the question, instead of assuming the answer. Let yourself be a little unfiltered. Sometimes. It will feel uncomfortable, maybe even wrong at first, because it goes against everything you learned. But slowly, your mind will experience something new. A response, clarity, relief, and the noise. It won't disappear overnight, but it will get quieter, because you're no longer that child who had to stay silent to feel safe. You have a voice now, and maybe it's time you finally let it be heard.